while ago I did a video on Star Wars Transformers I think deserve a refresh, and today I'm going to continue that, but with 10 Star Wars vehicles I think deserve to be made into Star Wars Transformers. Starting off with the iconic TIE Fighter. Yes, the design doesn't give a lot to work with, but a past Transformers toy came to mind, and I think if they used the engineering of Kingdom Black and White here, we could have a TIE Fighter Transformer. As that toy basically folds most of the robot into a ball in order to fit into the back half of the spider, leaving the arms to form the underside and mandibles. With modifications, I can see that being how the TIE Fighter would transform, the body folded up into the ball form of the cockpit, with the arms transferring slightly to form the pillars that connect the solar panel wings to the cockpit. But then, where would those wings go in robot mode? Given the unique shape, you can't just slap them on the back like a Seeker's wings. Well, I think leaving them on the shoulders, like the TIE Bomber Transformer, is the natural solution, but I don't know if they look too big given said shape. Or maybe give them the belly to fold, like in the one shown in the Mando show? I'm probably overthinking this, and the wings are fine as they are hanging off the shoulders, as is. Switching from the Imperials to the Rebels with the B-Wing. Unlike the previous entry, the B-Wing has enough bulk to have a more traditional transformation, as I see the tail gun popping off to be a handheld gun in robot mode, with the wings probably sticking off the shoulders like the X-Wing Transformer. Plus, I think it would give them some faction synergy too if they did that. And I think there could be a simple way to keep the B-Wing spinning cockpit gimmick intact too, by having the head of the robot mode plugged into the top of the wing of the cockpit that is attached, locking it in place, with the arms also plugging in to either side, and finally the cockpit swings down to make a Seeker-like torso, with the rest of the starfighter forming the legs. Returning to my favourite faction, with the LAAT Carrier plus ATTE Walker, the idea behind this entry is to make these two a duocon, a transformer who's made up of two vehicles to form the robot mode, with the ATTE Walker forming most of the body, with the LAAT Carrier forming the backpack, upper torso, arms, and head, with the ATTE forming the legs and lower torso, with the big central legs either combining to form the arms of the LAAT to form more solid arms, or maybe folding into the legs of the robot mode. We go from Clone Troopers to the Headers with the Korum class fighter transport, or the Gauntlet, which I'll be referring to as for simplicity. With the Mando and Google movie releasing recently as I'm making up this video, it's only fitting that I bring up this cool starfighter. Plus, since a couple of factions use the Gauntlet, there are three main potentials, those being Death Watch, Darth Maul's faction of Mandos, and Bo-Katan's own faction. As for how I think the Gauntlet can transform, I think it can transform similarly to the Jedi starfighter, but with the wings also forming the arms, or at least parts of the wings do, so the Gauntlet can raise its wings up to land like it does in the show. Returning to the Clone Wars with the MTT, after that make me think this could make a great summary-like gimmick bot, where you can open the hatch to deploy droids in either MTT mode or in robot mode. I think the MTT could make a great transforming B2 Super Battle Droid, as its shape does remind me of the B2, plus battle droids are really absent in the original Star Wars line, so might as well rectify that with this pick. But for how the MTT could transform, I think it transform largely as you expect, with the back half of the vehicle forming the legs, with the front half forming the upper torso of the robot. This is really coming down to if you want to go with the B2 idea or the samurai gimmick bot idea, where for the B2 idea, I've transformed still largely as you expect, though keeping the hatchback-like nature of the design intact, and with the samurai gimmick bot keeping the hatch in place so the gimmick can still work in both modes. Or maybe they could go for an extra by having both the B2 idea and the samurai gimmick bot idea intact by having the bot switching between a B2 Super Battle Droid and a different robot mode where you can access the deploying hatch gimmick. Switching over to the Republic with the TX-130 Segment Class Fighter Tank, or whatever is called the Clone Light Tank. If like me, you played Wars Battlefront 2 with both Lone and Stormtroopers having access to this tank, and you don't fair amount around the battlefield on the maps where the tank is available, mowing down enemies, or using this tank as your last stand on Magneto, using every last drop of the Saber's health to squeeze out a win against the odds. Plus, the Saber having the previously mentioned Imperial and Republic colors schemes, it has an easy reuse. As for who could be used as basis for the robot mode, I think the Engineer class would make sense, as it does have a reward buff for slicing into enemy vehicles. As for how the Clone Light Tank can transform, I can see it transforming in one or two ways. First way being that the main body of the tank is where the robot mode is, with the two wings hanging off either side of the tank fold to the back, like Seeker wings. With the second way being that those two wings of the tank fold in half to form the feet of robot mode, with the rest of the tank forming the rest of the body. Returning to the CIS again, but sticking with Battlefront 2 Classic Nostalgia with the Droid Snail Tank. While present not as iconic as the Saber Tank in the game, it's still a very fun tank to use, with its dual shotgun weapons devastating infantry, and the Snail Tank's grenades launchers dealing good damage too. With my favorite thing to do with this Snail Tank is to be like for the Wookiee stronghold to quickly blast down the gate controls, and if I'm lucky enough, capture the control point to remove the endless wave of Wookiees from that control point, making the map more manageable for the rest of the match. As for what to base the robot mode on for the Snail Tank, I see the Stealth Tank getting its own unique rubber mode, though I can see the B2 Super Droid also becoming the rubber mode for the Stealth Tank, as they both share the same colour scheme, and the B2 is, well, being bulkier than a B1. It's also oddly slim, which also fits the description of this Snail Tank, personally. As for how the Snail Tank can transform, since it has those two massive cylindrical discs protecting the droid brain and components inside, I feel like that'd be a best way to hide most of the robot transformation behind those shells, with the front treads possibly being the forearms of the robot, with the back of the tank making up the legs. And since it does have that kind of top-heavy like design, I feel like that's also why the Snail Tank would fit the B2 rubber mode, as again the B2 is top-heavy. So it basically does be the tank kind of standing up to transform. Moves at the end within to the Rebels with the A-Wing. Well, not as popular as its older sibling, the X-Wing, but I'm just surprised that this Interceptor never got a Star Wars transformer. I can see the A-Wing being deceptive with its transformation, with the robot mode calling out to form a full-size robot from such a small starfighter, or sticking to A-Wing's shortness by having the robot be a short bruiser with the engines from the back forming massive Popeye-like forearms. Finally came some bounties with our second to last Star Wars vehicle with the Razor Crest. Well, Mando does already have a Star Wars transformer with his modified N1 starfighter, but I don't think that discounts him from getting a second figure, as the original Star Wars Transformers line did have multiple characters gain multiple vehicles. Just take Anakin, for example. He has multiple vehicles to his name and likeness across the original Star Wars Transformers line, so I can see why they can do the same with Mando. Personally, I just prefer the Razor Crest over the N1. It just makes more sense for when Den does bounty hunter work. Plus, I imagine the Razor Crest would have more space to store more accessories too, like the forked long rifle, and maybe parts of the Razor Crest can detach to transform into a mini Grogu bot too. As for how the Razor Crest can transform, I imagine transferring larger than you expect, with the two massive engines forming to the back to form a version of Jin's jetpack. Though I can see the cockpit section popping off to transform into that mini Grogu bot I mentioned earlier, with the rest of Razor Crest transforming to form another Den bot. Lastly, for my all-time most wanted vehicle to be made into a Star Wars transformer, we return to CES with not just my favourite starfighter, but also my favourite droid from Star Wars, the Vulture droid. While the main body of the Vulture droid is thin, but both Prime and Tablet Soundwave are both thin robots, so I don't think that the Vulture droid's thin body could be a problem. Plus, even if it was, I can see why it could make the body thicker to help with the transformation. Another thing to keep in mind with the Vulture droid is its kind of transformation, as it can turn into a walker, where its head pops up in the main body and its wings fold down from legs. This ability is why it's my all-time favourite droid from Star Wars, and I feel like it's really underutilized in media, as I can remember a handful of times where the Vulture droid was used as a walker for a fight, and one of those times it was a cut scene from the Clone Wars movie. But back to how to make a Vulture droid into a transformer. I did that having a similar transformation to the TIE Fighter from the start of the video, where the robot forms the main body of the Vulture droid, with the wings being attached to the arms. Another similar way to do it, I think, would be to have the wings attached to armatures to the arms and legs. So, for example, the upper wings are attached to the arms, but the lower wings are attached to the legs by armatures that would allow the Vulture droid to do its walker form, but when it transforms into rubber mode, the wings are separated between the arms and legs. As to what the rubber mode could be based on, given their thin nature, I think it makes sense for the B1 Pilot Droid to be the basis of the rubber mode, and specifically the B1 Pilot Droid, as like the CIS color scheme for the Vulture Droid, B1 pilots have blue markings on them. And that's with the end of this video. What do you think of my choices? This isn't an exhausted list, so what Star Wars figures do you want to see made into a Star Wars Transformer? But in any event, thank you for watching.